Voluson S8 is designed for general clinical ultrasound examinations. It has specific features for examinations in obstetrics and gynecology as well. It supports linear, convex, 3D convex and 3D vaginal transducers. That allows for 3D examinations in obstetrics and gynecology. What does the work on Voluson S8 begin with? As with all other devices, first of all, it begins with creation of the patient. When creating a patient, the main thing is to fill in the patient ID. You can also create a surname, a first name, and a patronymic if you wish so. For your convenience, the device can create a patient ID itself. But for your convenience, if a patient card file is installed in a medical institution, you can enter the patient's card number. In this case, we have the patient ID, which was created by the device itself. We write the last name. Let it be test. Patient's name and patronymic are not required. It is also possible to enter the date of birth, 10.23 in this form. Immediately, we get the age of the patient, and also additional data which is specific for obstetrics and gynecology, date of last menstrual period. Again, the device creates the estimated date of birth and the term of pregnancy. If we are to perform an examination in cardiology, by specifying the height and weight of the patient, we will get the body area in square meters. After entering the data, we click Continue the examination. In this case, we changed it a little. And we already have it in the table. Well, the patient's last name and date of birth are indicated on the top lines. The next stage of our examination is the selection of transducers and of the examination we are going to conduct. Program button. First, let's choose a linear transducer. US machine enables us to carry out such examinations. Small organs, including the mammary gland, thyroid gland, small organs just. That is, the list of examinations that are included in the complex of small organs. Also obstetrics, peripheral vessels, pediatrics, and musculoskeletal system. Let's choose the thyroid gland, and let's focus precisely on it. That is thyroid gland. How to adjust the image? Each function that is activated by these knobs is also increased by it. That is, activation, pressing a knob, amplification, turning it. What does this device allow us to do? First, the frequency change. The knobs which are used are depicted on the screen. At the bottom of the screen, it is written what exactly each knob is responsible for. These are functional keys that change depending on the mode of device work. In this case, frequency, focus, number of focuses and dynamic range. Change in frequency depends on penetrating ability. When the frequency is increased, we detail the various structures of the image, but unfortunately, we lose the depth of penetration. In order to increase the penetration depth, we decrease the frequency. And as a result, on the contrary, we partially lose the quality of the image. But reduction in frequency allows to carry out examinations of organs that are located deeper. An additional function that enables you to improve the image itself is harmonica. By turning on the harmonica, we see that the image becomes clearer. And again, with the harmonica turned on, we partially lose the depth of penetration. Voluson is a system that is equipped with additional optimizers that we see on the screen on the left. CRI and SRI. Turn off. We see that the image becomes sharper. After having turned on SRI, it became softer, and we can increase this function. What is this function used for? By using it, we can adjust an image for ourselves in such a way that we conduct subsequent examinations without data manipulation. And CRI. Again, we see how the image changes. Turned off. Turned on. And we are changing the scale. We see how the image is changing. And again, this allows you to adjust an image so that the diagnostic medical sonographer can see an image that is familiar to him. In terms of functionality, we can see on the taskbar. It is color Doppler, energy Doppler, M-mode and pulse wave Doppler, color Doppler. It's what I've said before. We can activate and adjust a function with the same knob. This function is more necessary for us when we examine blood vessels and the heart. In this case, if we are interested in the blood supply in the thyroid gland, it's better to use energy Doppler. This system is equipped with a directional energy Doppler, which we see on the screen, and also a simple energy Doppler, which changes in the left column on the screen. In the image, we can see the extreme sensitivity of directed energy and color Doppler, which allows us to determine the blood supply in any structure of the thyroid gland. When you press the 2D button, the device automatically exits from all previously enabled modes and switches to a simple scan. Taking measurements on the Voluson S8. There are simple measurements and complex measurements. Simple measurements involve the determination of a simple distance, area, volume and angle. It's what we can see in the left column on the screen. When performing complex measurements, we can determine the volume of the thyroid gland with an indicator that corresponds to 0.479. We choose the length, width, and turn off freeze. In order to measure the length of the thyroid gland, we need to turn on the trapezoidal mode, which is also called not real convex. For this purpose, on the bottom left of the screen is virtual convex. And we turn on the caliper in order to measure the size of the thyroid gland. At the bottom of the screen, we see the volume of the right thyroid gland. To return to the linear scan, we drag to the virtual convex and switch to a simple linear scan. Next, let's move on to the examination of blood vessels. Again, click on Tests. After having selected a transducer, we choose peripheral vessels. And that's what we want to see. For example, carotid artery. We can clearly see the intima media on the black wall of the carotid artery. In order to improve the image and its clarity, we have a dynamic regulator. That's what I told you in the beginning. By making the image smaller, it becomes more delicate, but the visualization and structure of the wall of the carotid artery decreases. By increasing it, we see the image clearer, more distinct, and at the same time, the intima media is more clearly visualized, which is necessary for us to study the arteries. That is a color Doppler. To change the size of the control volume or the active color Doppler window is changed with the help of trackball keys. By clicking on it, we can change the size of the control volume. By clicking again, we change the position of the control volume for further examination. The two buttons that we use for the grayscale imaging are one changing the frame right-left and one which changes scan position up-down. And the invert button. Let's turn on the pulse wave Doppler, which we need for examinations on arteries. We choose the lumen of the vessel. Again, we use Change button to alter the control volume with the trackball. By pressing again, we change the position of the control volume. And then, as we can see on the screen to the left of the trackball, refresh. On the right, simultaneously. That is, it is a triplex mode. Sound button. And again, the function buttons that we use in this case for pulse wave Doppler are marked. That is a baseline, PRF button, and also Angel. When we press it, we get 60 degrees. When you click Trace on the left side of the screen, we turn on automatic tracing. In online pulse wave Doppler mode, Let's do the procedure again. "2D button, 2D mode." Exits all previously enabled modes and switches to a simple scan. That's a color Doppler. Invert button. Color Doppler enhancement. Again, the scale. Pulse wave Doppler. In this case, we can change the control volume, bigger or smaller, and position, and turn it on or just go for pulse wave Doppler or triplex mode. On the left side of the screen, we see tracing. It means the device takes measurements on its own. That's measurements which are carried out in a pulse wave Doppler. When caliper is turned on, we get simple measurements. Right here we can choose auto tracing. We will get the result. We can perform manual tracing, pulse index measurements, resistance index. It's measurements which enables us to examine all vessels in pulsed wave Doppler mode. If we set peak systolic and end diastolic velocity, we will get a resistive index. And also complex measurements. That means we choose the vessel that we are examining. For example, we measure, for example, in this case, the resistance index. And we will get the resistance index again. If you look at the screen, the difference is in 2 dimensions. The difference is in 2 dimensions. The first is oblique measurements, and the second, the vessel is indicated. This means that the first measurements we made are not stored in the device. The second measurements, which are connected to the vessel, are stored in the device. And we can view them using the report button. That's what you see on the screen. Here are all the data we have entered so far. That is the data of the patient, as well as the measurements we performed on this patient. Pressing the report button again, we exit this mode. Or press the exit button. And that's it. Let me repeat myself. Pressing 2D automatically exits all functions and switches to a simple grayscale image. Vascular examination, which this machine performs on the vessels. What are we interested in? First of all, it is artery stenosis. Arterial stenosis is determined by distance. We set the second distance. Let's see the result. If we go to the total area measurements above, we can determine the stenosis by area. At the bottom is stenosis on the area. That's what we see on the screen on the right.